Are you afraid of the dark? No. Have you ever seen 1 million anemones? Well, you still haven't, but you've seen 44 of them, which is what I've got here. If you've been following any of my other videos, you'll know that I started out with one tiny little anemone, and it grew into 3, then grew into 6, and then here we are. So just stay tuned, and I'm going to discuss how I think I got here to this point. But before that, I'm going to show you my plate of corals. Don't judge the dirtiness of the tank. We've been under a boil water order, so I probably wouldn't ever get anything in the tank that was dangerous to the fish or anything, but I'm not gonna try it because I don't know what kind of bacteria could be in there. But I'm pretty sure it's probably nothing, but I'm just not gonna test it. Well, there are my corals from the top. And there's my clownfish. They're a little camera shy, but they'll eventually come into frame, I think. But yeah, there's my tank in a nutshell. Really, if you look at that, it doesn't look that bad, but once these things expand out and finally wake up, it is just wall-to-wall anemones. And you can see here what they've done to my little frag rack that I had. I had all kinds of zoas on it. Not anymore. So now I've got to find out how I'm going to sell these things or get rid of them. I'm going to try not to cull them out, even though it may be an emergency, issue that I may have to do. But I'm kind of soft-hearted. That's a living creature. I don't want to kill it. I don't want it to die. They're beautiful. So let's just find out. We're going to join the Anytime Fish Show, which you can watch anytime, even at 12:15 on a Tuesday. So stay tuned and let's learn some stuff. Hey guys, welcome to the Anytime Fish Show, the show you can watch anytime, even at 1:36 on a Thursday. But before we get into anything fish related, let's catch up on some news. So have you guys heard about Mariah Carey's sister? She's been in the news lately. Well, apparently she was arrested for prostitution again. But this comes after Mariah Carey's book that accused her of trying to pimp her. She beat her, burned her. So the family, I guess, decided maybe they messed up when they named her Pariah Carey. Any of you guys heard about Awake Dating? Apparently this is the website where conspiracy theorists can get together and find true love. Or is it? It probably is. Or is it? Nah, I'm sure it is. Or is it? So the Taliban's been in the news lately. Did you see where they banned all education for girls in the country of Afghanistan? This has caused a huge outcry from the world. But I think maybe we just ban driver's education. I mean, you thought the death toll from the war was high. Yeah. Well, that's been the news. So let's get into the Anytime Show. Hey guys, thanks. As you may know, when I started my videos, I started out with just a little quarter-sized anemone that I bought from my local fish store and got it home. And lo and behold, my clownfish just went right to it. And they attached to it. They would even feed it first thing before they got any food. They'd make sure that it was fed, and then they would eat, which is, man, that's crazy. It's an amazing thing. Especially any saltwater aquarius, that's what they really love. And, it's a sight to behold. I don't know, you may not think so, but I do. And so, it started to grow and grow and grow and got incredibly large, way bigger than my hand. And one day it split. Well, I was happy. I had two now. And same thing happened. They grew and grew and grew and grew. I had four. Then they grew, and then I had six. Well, let's back up just a little bit. In between when I had four, I got COVID. So, I quarantined. That's one of those things that all aquarists run into when you run into life. Life is going to happen to all of us. It's going to affect our tanks, and I think it did possibly affect mine. So I quarantined away so none of my family would get it. And, my wife, she decided she was going to take over feeding the tank because it's in the living room. So she fed the fish there, and she was afraid to feed too much. So she said she fed sparingly. I'm sure she may have forgotten because she's not in charge of that. And so when I got ready, got able to get back out, which was, it was a couple weeks. It was really rough. And I started feeding again. I noticed I had just a little bit of cyanobacteria. And I thought, well, I'll get rid of that stuff, no problem. Try to, suction it off and, do water changes. And, I fought that for quite a while and even got to the point, once I started feeding, it got just a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger. And then suddenly it's all over the tank. And, this became a problem because I lost some torch corals because of that cyanobacteria. And, it's odd that something that back at the very beginning, at least that's what we think, cyanobacteria it made us. That was the first thing that oxygenated the whole planet was cyanobacteria. But it's very poisonous to all your corals, and a lot of fish will die from it if they eat it. And so, you need to get rid of it if you possibly can. So I tried raising the temperature. Everybody said raise the temperature a little bit and it'll go away. It didn't. It went away slightly. So I was just afraid to throw everything off kilter, so I didn't go that route. So then I started to raise the nitrates. Raise your nitrates, let the rest of the bacteria catch up, and then maybe you can get a little algae. It'll clear up. Oh, okay. So I did that, and lo and behold, my zoas just exploded. My zoas love that, and so that's a key that I've learned, to keep your nitrates just a little higher for zoas. They love it, and they love that phosphorus. But, so this kept going on, and lo and behold, I just gave up and got some ChemiClean. ChemiClean wiped it out. So I made some pretty large water changes. Everything seemed to be good. My anemones looked way healthier. They seemed like they enjoyed that much better without that cyanobacteria. So they began to grow, and pretty soon 4 became 6, and then 8, and then 10, and it was kind of growing a little faster than I wanted it to. So it was starting to get out of hand. And so I posted a few videos, and one of my watchers, he posted that, something's up. Something's out of kilter if they split. It's a bad thing. And of course, all aquarists, you get a little, no, that's not. I've taken care of my aquarium. And I had for the most part. All my, all my parameters stay pretty close to the same all the time. And I wouldn't say that they're perfect, because who can? There's some swings, just a little bit. But that's the whole thing with, bubble tip anemones. They're pretty hardy. So they could take those little swings. Big swings, no, nothing's going to take that in the saltwater tank. So as long as you keep everything, pretty stable, which my tank was stable. My light was good. My light always stayed pretty close to the same. And so I said, no, that's not right. If you go to Worldwide Corals, they had an anemone tank where, they finally got the right kind of light, and it just continually split. And, it's just like mine, it's full of anemones. So I quoted that, sent it back to him. I was like, I think that's all it was. When you Google it, you're going to find out that, yes, there is some that think that when things are out of whack, maybe not enough food, not enough light, not enough, parameters in the water, off salinity, whatever, that they'll split into two and make a smaller organism. Think that'll be healthier for them, which possible. I'm not a biologist. I don't know. But there is also the others that say once it's full of energy, has enough light, plenty of food, it'll split in two. It's just getting too big. I think that happened at the beginning. So, I've quoted that to him, and I got to thinking one day, he's like, we're not pretty sure nothing could be out of kilter in this tank. They just kind of kept splitting a little bit. I had like 12, 13, 15. And one day I was just feeding my anemones, and I saw it. Evidently, when, feedings were kind of slim, that my clownfish got really aggressive. They would take the food from the tentacles of the anemones and eat it. I mean, they would just go through and just take everything away from all the anemones. Food was not getting there enough as it usually did. So I think they split because of that. So there's the key. So I think two things happened in that tank at the beginning. One, I think everything was so healthy, it just grew so big. I mean, I'm telling you, it was impressive. It split, a couple of them split, and then, life happens. I can't post those videos where I've done everything totally perfect, nothing's wrong, because you will do this. If you're just getting into having saltwater tanks and you want an anemone, you're going to have to deal with stuff like this. If you've got a saltwater tank and you're a seasoned vet, you're going to deal with stuff like this. Everything's not roses, I'm telling you. So, all those that post just the perfect stuff, I think it's kind of a detriment. I make mistakes. You'll make mistakes. It just happens. The best people make mistakes. It just happens. And sometimes life gets in the way, just as it did with COVID. Things just, you can't do things all the time that you need to do. And that's the only bad thing about keeping a saltwater aquarium that needs to stay perfect is, you're going to trip. Or, you're working late, hot summer, you don't feel good, you're sick, things don't get fed right, maybe you don't do that water change quick enough. Things happen. So, that's something you need to be on the lookout for if you're thinking about getting into keeping bubble tip anemones. Even though they're really hardy, they'll make it through most things. This is crazy 44. That'll lead me to the next thing that I think happened. And there's two things that I'm just unsure about. I noticed, one day my tank had a lot of cloudy water in it. And the clownfish sometimes when they're breeding or getting ready to breed, they'll kick up the sand, they'll make it cloudy, but that only lasts a couple hours. This lasted for a couple days. And, I began to get kind of concerned about it, and then it cleared up. And, I did testing, everything was fine. And about 3 weeks later, I noticed little dots everywhere, just little dots. And lo and behold, they became anemones. I had a bunch. I mean, if it was a spawning, it could have been way worse. So I just think my lucky stars only have 44 that I have to deal with. But, that's what I got to deal with right now. But also, right around that same time, one of my anemones got into the overflow, went into my return pump. And how this happened, I still don't know. I could see maybe it getting in through the intake, but for it to dislodge the cover, which I can't even dislodge this cover. I can't do that. A lot of times I'll have to take a screwdriver or a knife and pry open each side and pull it off. And how it did that, I don't know. But when it did that, it got injured. It was chewed up. So, I'm aware that, if you quarter an anemone at the mouth, you can make 4 anemones. And that's the way they used to propagate. But is it possible when they get chewed up, I could have, hundreds? Is that possible? I don't know. If any of you do know, I would appreciate you posting it in the comments. But, so I'm a little up in the air on that. I don't know that it was a spawn. I don't have a clue. But I just know that they were just teeny tiny little dots. So I don't think that was from a split, because they split in two. They're both pretty good sized organisms once they do that. So, I'm at odds right there. I just don't know. I wish I could tell you, something better there, but I just can't. So, I'm going to call that. I think good and bad both happen to this tank, but it's all bad right now. I've got too much to feed in that tank right now. That is a detriment to my tank. So I'm going to have to do something. Like I said in the beginning, I'm kind of a soft-hearted guy, and I don't want to throw out anything and kill it. It's just the way I am. So, I raised it. It's my fault, my problem. I'll deal with it if I can. If I begin to think that it's going to, turn over the tank and I'm going to lose everything, then I'll have to start culling stuff. That's just the way it's going to be. But as it is now, I'm going to try to sell it and see what happens. So, I'm going to give you some tips, I think, on keeping these. And number one tip is stability. Everything, if you could keep everything just as stable as you can, do that. If you have a new tank, don't just wait 6 weeks to throw some anemones in there. Clownfish, woohoo, go. Your tank's not ready. You need to, at the beginning, just get an empty tank. Fill it up with rocks and, decorate it. Throw a shrimp in there, let the water get cloudy for a few days, and wait till, all your parameters, wind up zero. So once everything is ready, then you can start adding maybe one fish, and then maybe two fish, a few weeks later, and you maybe could drop in some zoas there. But, if I were you, I would wait at least a full year, maybe 9-10 months before I added an anemone. That way your tank is seasoned. It can take a bio load, and without having pH swings and ammonia swings. Those are the things that kill everything. So just patience, 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 patience. And if you're gonna get them, I would feed them maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I feed mine brine shrimp, or I have some. I have plankton, sea plankton, and I feed it, maybe just about every day, sometimes just a little bit. There's this really tiny stuff, and that seems to do all right there. And at least that way, I'm not polluting the water so bad. And if you're going to get one too, the one thing that you need to look out for is getting stung by the anemone, which is probably going to happen. It happened to me, and I'll just tell you my experience real quick is that first time I got stung, I just had a couple tentacles hit you. And what it feels like to me, I felt no pain whatsoever. It was just kind of, remember if you know those crazy wall walkers when you were a kid, those little gel octopus you throw up against the wall and they'd walk down sticky. That's what it felt like. It was just like sticky stuff. It stuck to me. Nothing ever happened. The second time, I got hit by a much larger anemone because I was pretty callous and I didn't think anything would happen. It got me all through the palm of the hand with a bunch of tentacles. And I noticed when I pulled my hand out, these 2 fingers were quivering and I couldn't really control them. And that lasted for about 15 minutes. And then everything started to return to normal. Didn't think anything of it after that. Everything seemed okay. And the next day, I could not close my hand. It was really weak. There was a lot of pain in the palm of my hand. And I struggled with it all day. So finally I took 1 Benadryl and like an ibuprofen. Went away, totally fine the next day, no issues. So like if you Google this, you're going to see that it's going to say anything from liver failure, heart failure, kidney failure, death. Possible, but I would think you'd have to get hit by a very large anemone, maybe one that would grab your whole entire arm. But also, on the other hand, that different people react in different ways to things, and your body chemistry may react horribly with just a few tentacles. So I would just say be careful until you find out that it's harmless, and then then you could just go about putting your hand in the tank if you need to. So. But that's what happened to me. I hope that I've taught you some things, and you might be able to teach me some things. And I'm still curious on whether if that thing could get chopped up in the pump. That am I just making hundreds of little anemones? I don't know. I don't think that's the way it would work. I would think probably spawning would be the more probably the more prevalent thing that could happen. But some of you out there maybe had some different experiences. Maybe you could tell me. Also, before I get off here, one thing I want to touch on. Okay. Also, before I get off here, one thing I want to find out, I think I already know this. I don't know. This is amazing to me. These creatures are beautiful. They're amazing. Here's a creature with no brain, no central nervous system, no way to make decisions, but yet these things make a decision to move wherever they want in that tank. Like if they're there under a high flow, not all of my anemones like high flow. Some of them do. Some of them go there. Some of them like to get down under the rock and stay. Some have been there for months and they just like it under the rock without, low light. Some of them seem to like light. But what's amazing is theoretically it cannot make a decision. But it makes a decision, I'm going to move here. I like it better here. So I don't know. There's maybe some studies need to be done on these things. Maybe we don't understand them quite the way, maybe they do have some kind of way, to think and to do, So maybe somebody already knows that. Maybe there's already a paper out there or a video. Maybe you could reference in the comments. But one thing I would like for you to do before we end this video is to please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Please comment if you like the video. If you don't like the video, I don't mind constructive criticism. I love it. I want to grow my channel. I want to produce the best videos out there possible. So I can only do that if you tell me what is right, what is wrong. And just please know that I appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to learn more things, I do have another video out there that has just skyrocketed. I think it's got like 24,000 views at the time. It's a video on Severums and Discus, how to take care of Discus. I have a Severum and a Discus in a tank. And I produced a video there to show you how to take care of Discus and learn from my mistakes so you don't make those mistakes. And I hope that I can do that with anemones too. And this should be an ongoing thing, I hope. Hopefully, if you like it, enough people like it, I'm going to try to do it every week, maybe even every day if at all possible, if I can come up with enough jokes. So I'm going to get off here, guys. Thank you so much. I do appreciate every one of you who have subscribed, every one of you who watch, and I will see you later.